voice for those with intellectual disabilities, ambassador and a board member for them. And also involved with AAU basketball for women, trying to create a platform for them as well, as we do in the NBA Academy with the young men that they have there. So those are some of the things I'm involved in presently.
Awesome.
I'm out the bubble. I'm not in the bubble. So
you're not in the bubble, so you're here with us, so we appreciate it. Mr. Howard, you're up next.
I'm P-Sean Howard. I'm in my 5th year of professional basketball. Played in the G League and last year with the Detroit Pistons, the Wizards, and the Kings. And right now I'm transitioning to expanding off the court. I started an agency, and I'm franchising Frostbite. It's the ice cream industry. And just expanding on those avenues, looking into more franchising, looking into more property, and just being able to, build and play professional, so where I can, not have to wait till after my basketball career to build the business side. So that's also why I started the agency, so to help other athletes and basketball players do the same thing, where you don't have to wait, just start building your value now, and you can expand both on the court and off the court.
Absolutely, that is amazing. So I'm going to start off with the one question that I think I've gotten the most, and I'm going to combine 2 of them. I want you guys to think back to either your previous or your current teams, not your sports teams, but like your lawyer, your manager, your publicist, your professional team. What did you look for when you were looking for your lawyer? What did you look for? What skills did you look for when you were looking for a manager? What shined in the people that you selected to make that, or what stood out in the people that you selected opposed to someone else that, off the street that just reached out to you to be representation?
Well, one of the key things that I look for in basically a management team is my 3 acronyms is humble, hungry, and smart. With those 3 things, it guides that. Those 3 acronyms fit who I am, so I need to make sure those particular people that I hired on or part of my team have those same acronyms as well. When you're hungry, you're always willing to do things. When you're humble, you're willing to do things that maybe not in your realm. And when you're smart, you're able to basically think outside the box and get things done. So those are the 3 things that I basically focus on when it comes down to anything. If it's business, sports, friends, what have you.
yeah, I agree along those lines. Back at the time when I was choosing management representative, one thing I wanted to look for was not the most popular Vantage program, but more so one that was willing to work for the little man. I wasn't the all-star. I wasn't the Michael Jordan, because Michael and I came out at the same time. So I wanted somebody who was going to be really professional, knew their stuff, and that would communicate with me constantly, because I wanted them to know the value that I had going to them and bringing others to the table. But more so, we screened a great deal of them, and more of them were talking about things that they did in the past. I was more concerned with what they were going to do for me in that perspective. So when I did look for a management team, they had to be consistent, they had to be real, and I asked them a question: why do they want to represent me? And I gave them an idea, or gave them the opportunity to tell me. And once I felt comfortable with that, they were hungry. They were ready to prove themselves that they were worthy to do the job. And I had no complaints with them at all up to the time I even finished my career. But they were absolutely they were out of Virginia. So they had a complete setup, and now they have several different players, both from HBCU and college ranks in the pros now that they represent. And I cannot tell you that he gets good feedback from everybody. So it was a good choice at the time.
Absolutely awesome. Mr. Howard, I'm going to expand a tiny bit for you because you started your own sports agency. So on top of what were you looking for, was there an instance or an experience that you had with your own management that made you say, you know, I'm just going to go out and start my own?
Yes, for me, with dealing with my own management and just experience professionally, especially basketball, most agencies, especially the bigger agencies, they bridge the gap between the athlete and the front office. A lot of times they, I would say, overbridge the gap. They do a lot of the work that players could do, but I think that handicaps the players in the long run because for the most part, they're not maximizing their potential because the things that they don't know to do or that they can do and even due to their own vision because the agent is supposed to be pursuing that or presenting that vision for, you know, for someone else. So for me, I'm in the gym with a lot of young basketball players now, but I've been around a lot of basketball players coming up that have, you know, made it to the NBA, been successful, and just seeing that aspect, I thought that it's a way that I could affect the game, give back to the game, and expand on it while my time in basketball.
Awesome. Torrance, you're up next.
Great comments here. Mr. Perkins, I'll go right to you because, of course, I have a built-in relationship here. Let me ask you, with all of the politics and the business considerations, what advice do you give a young athlete to develop and build their brand while still finding a way to be seen as a team player?
Well, in today's society, sports have changed a great deal all over, from football to soccer to basketball. And pretty much now, players have now become more involved in their own path of finding success. They brand themselves, of course. They have lucrative achievements in branding themselves with apparel, footwear, and once upon a time in the NBA, you weren't allowed to brand yourself because of the fact of all the other, I guess, partnerships, sponsorships that took in the league. But now that the NBA is a little liberal, people today or athletes today have a chance to use their platform, speak on themselves, create a template to brand whatever they want, say whatever they want within the guidance of where it's not detrimental. But at the same time, I think that when I tell kids or young men to play, when they want to play ball professionally, they have to know themselves, to know their worth, know their value to whatever entity they come into. They have a voice to say anything, and they can be creative. We have several guys in the NBA and the G League that are very creative in their own ways of thinking. We have guys on the Brooklyn Nets who brands themselves on his shoes. We have guys who are collectors and involved in their own way of promoting themselves. So kids today are so prone to be out there and into the limelight that I tell them that you have to know your value, know your worth, go to the right sources, follow the right path. And if you don't know anything, especially ask questions, because you have a great deal of guys who have great minds, but they don't know the connections. And every time you connect with somebody, make sure that you know who they are, and if possible, they can help you to reach out. So that's what we did. That's what I did. And the guys today in the NBA are doing a great deal of that now, as you can tell when you see somebody branding themselves. Even with apparel or even with themselves, they do a good job. Like Kyrie Irving comes to mind. when I say that. He does a good job getting himself out there and getting himself visible.
Thank you, Mr. Perkins. Mr. Howard, would you chime in on that for us as well?
Yeah, that was a great answer. I think for me, the market aspect now and how branding is so, influential by yourself. Like you can brand yourself, put yourself out there and reach the masses way easier than before. It I think, makes it more ambitious. I feel like people should really be trying to expand these avenues and reach for the stars because your voice can be heard. Put the foundation in to have value to what you're saying, but you can express yourself. And now it's our responsibility to do it in the right way. And I think everyone value your brand because you can control it and control the narrative, as well as use your talent. Before I think it was more of a muzzle, and people really couldn't express themselves, and not even just athletes, just people in the community. I think now there's way more avenues through social media and just through internet to, express yourself, and be opinionated, but make sure you have the value with that, so we can be taken serious and yourself be taken serious because you are your brand and you control that.
Thank you for that answer. Mr. McBride, on that same topic, what would you say to an athlete that may have a online presence and deportment kind of like a Kanye West, and he was on your team and now distracting what the team goes with?
Wow. What would I say to that? That can be basically detrimental. All depends what type of player you are, what team you are on, and basically the culture that's around you. You have to be cognizant of exactly what you're putting out there. Once you hit that send button, you cannot retract that. So if you're gonna brand yourself as a outspoken player, you have to make sure that you're understanding that they may have some bad or negative consequences on the back end, because certain people, they don't want to deal with that. And how society is moving today, your truth may be your truth, but it may not be, majority of the public truth as well. So for that person that's, extremely outspoken and, really want to put their point across, just be cognizant of it. Exactly. They have to understand that there's always both sides to it. Even though if there's truth, there also can be some backlash to that as well.
Awesome answer, guys. Mr. McBride, I want to focus in on your research that was inspired by your 7-year career in the NFL and looking for a non-toxic remedy for treating pain and traumatic brain injuries. Can you tell us a little bit about that process and what you can say about that process of doing your research?
Absolutely. Even going back to my collegiate career, everyone's already inside of their NCAA always had a cocktail or two. So once I transitioned to the NFL, I decided I wasn't going to drink anymore, and I started consuming cannabis in different type of forms. Once I was in the NFL and I transitioned out of the NFL, I was looking for something more of a pain management for me. Once I transitioned directly into cannabis space, I was able to basically get in contact with a lot of physicians that had like-minded, such as myself. So at this point right now, we're stripping some of the cannabinoids out of cannabis and treating it on soft tissue injuries, even seeing if it can help grow neurological brain cells back in different ailments. One of the things that we're also working on, and I'm a big advocate for, is also autism. So we're in so many different type spaces. I can't really touch on too much of it on exactly what, but for the most part, we're gaining extreme grounds on just cannabis research at this moment.
That's awesome. Because cannabis it's hot, especially in Southern California. It's a big industry. So we have a question that was submitted by a student, and I'm going to direct this to Mr. Howard first, and I'm going to open it up to Mr. McBride and Mr. Perkins. It says, "What advice do you guys give to an aspiring female sports agent?" Looks like we may have the next Nicole Lynn on our hands.
The first advice I would give is just be ambitious, which that's a tough goal in itself, and know the work that you're gonna have to put in and work even harder than that, just because the odds coming in are kind of stacked against you. But I think in that avenue, you would stand out, so you could exploit it. You just have to make sure your work and you come, prepared and correct every time, and leave your mark, and really just, stay stead strong, be determined, know the obstacles that you're gonna have to face. And as far as, now probably start reaching out to different agencies, seeing how the type of players they approach, being able to break down contracts, being able to break down film on players, dissecting players, really just showing your value, and, start reaching out to different agencies, including myself, and just know the work you're gonna have to put in.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Mr. Perkins or Mr. McBride, any advice for this young, aspiring female agent?
All I can say is I know some women that are in that genre, and they were very ambitious. One thing I did tell her, or I should give advice on, or is that you got to cover all bases when you go into a man's field, because of the fact that they will look at you either serious or not. If you don't know something, they'll put it against you or hold it against you. But I think more than anything is that, be confident. Go in there with the attitude, like, straight up, all the ins and outs, read the contracts, because I believe a football contract and a basketball contract is totally different. Even G League is a totally different contract. But you know all the perspectives that you are put in front of you, and go in there with a sound mind and attitude. And also, there are summer leagues and games and events that you can actually go to introduce yourself. Introduce yourself to players on the sidelines, give your card out, meet different people, go to different agencies, meet other agents that are there, and get to know them. And one will pull you to the side, or several will pull you to the side and give you some sound advice. So those are the ways you can interact and get involved within your career, and also at the same time make some friends and get to know. But players are friendly, even though they have agents. You never know; they might be, looking for another agency, a young guy, a young woman, to be in the times of keeping up with the times of the things that are going on now. So that's one way to get interested in that program.
Absolutely. Mr. McBride.
I would say just have grit. Just being a woman in a male-dominated industry, there's going to be a lot of bias going on. So understanding it may be several no's before there's a yes. So always having that understanding of not backing down, always getting back up, always taking that next step forward, and just knowing how strong she is as a woman, and she can do whatever a man can do, and most likely is probably even better just off of detail oriented. So, just always have grit.
All right, thank you. For the future Nicole Lynn, I hope that helped you out. Another question we have is, how do you find where the players are to start building that relationship?
Now you can start with Instagram, start with YouTube. Now every game, every highlight is posted. You could even start by going to, high school games, college games. It's really just being in the gym and talking to players, talking to the people in the community. It's not hard to get in contact with or even get into these gyms. you just have to, be following basketball and go from there.
Absolutely, absolutely. Mr. McBride?
Well, I mean, hitting all the social media sites. Well, right now we're dealing with COVID, but I mean, if you're dealing with basketball, hey, there's always some open gyms that need to be available. There's so many Nike camps, football, all different type of camps, and just basically seeing exactly what's out there, not being narrow-minded to one state, not being focused just on, I guess, even one sport. Just kind of keep things as open as possible.
And last but not least, Mr. Perkins.
Yeah, not only that, but you can also go to charity events. Some guys have given their heart and soul to a charity that they really believe in. So, and as they said, social media is a wonderful thing now to brand yourself. So you find that players are into, behind Special Olympics or whatever they cheer for. They have events throughout the year. One place you can actually go, and I don't go, is the golf course, because they play golf every day of the week. So they are found somewhere, but you just have to do your research, do your leg work, and players will often be, congregate wherever they are. And like you said, open gym and events, camps. They do camps on the side. So those things you should take advantage of.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Just for the audience who may not really be well versed, can one of you or a couple of you just give us an overview of what the general role is of an agent?
Well, you go ahead, Howard.
I was gonna say, I don't want to keep stepping in, but I would say the agent bridges the gaps, like I said, for the player and the front office, the player and the endorsement companies, really just the business side that players need to have handled, contracts, understanding the contracts, negotiations, really the outside of the court or the sport, things that players need to handle for them that, basically mostly just terminology that, players don't know, and maybe some things that they should do that agents, just through education and I guess, being agents, have different experiences and know how to, bridge these gaps.
Yeah, the agent works for you. But you're the gatekeeper of all your businesses, because, every agent is not a good agent. So there have come times where agents have pocketed money and things of that nature. But even though you still have an accountant, you are still the gatekeeper of your own business. And you have to ask questions on why is this happening? Why is that happening? Where is this and where is this going? You have to be up on it, because money can disappear overnight and you would not even notice the amount of money that is gone. So he works for you, but you have to be on top. You can't let him or her have the real access to all your financials without you knowing where to go. You have to sit down periodically, twice a month or something like that, to just know your portfolio. And once you do that, you'll be in sync. You can trust him or her, but they definitely have to work for you. They have to prove themselves that they can get this for you. They say this is a goal for next month, and they can get you the endorsement, or they can get you this and get you that, then fine. But also they got to keep leery of saving your money too. So invest your money, and if they know how to do that, and you see good results, then you have a good account on your hands.
That's very sound advice, especially when we have so many younger athletes ending up broke after their careers are over. So let me just turn to Mr. McBride. It was asked, do you recommend that your attorney and agent to be the same person?
No, absolutely not. I love to layer things out just to make sure that I have a sense of security that no one is basically working against me. Even though you hired them, you never know someone's true intention. So just having someone to backtrack on someone else is always a good thing. Never having just a one-stop shop in a professional lighting is never a good thing. You always want to have that double, triple layer to just making sure that whoever is handling your affairs have your best interests at heart.
Thank you so much for that. Reggie?
Another question from a student. For an agent that is starting out that does not have connections with big brands like Nike or Adidas for player endorsements, what advice do you have for an agent or a young person to make those connections?
Just start kind of going IG. It's right now, it's the easiest to make friends that you never met before. So everyone is accessible at this moment. So if you want to get involved with someone at Nike, start following someone on IG that works for Nike, or figuring out who works for Nike, or if you want to basically get a relationship with Ford, figure out what you want to do and start implementing a plan to get closer to your particular goals. Nowadays, anybody can get reached. So not having a network at this moment is truly not an excuse. Anyone is accessible. So just making sure that you have the understanding exactly what you want to do, because once you have that opportunity of speaking to someone that you may not be familiar with, you want to make sure that you're clear and precise on exactly what needs to be done and how you can add value to them. Please don't come out with just your hands open, asking for things. You also want to basically give so you can be able to receive.
Yeah, I would add to that also is that if you don't have any connections, the thing they call the computer now, email. You can email someone in the company who involves with public relations. You can introduce yourself, stating who you are and what you're doing and what you want to accomplish, and they may reach out and answer back and help you in many ways. But there's someone somewhere local in your city, if you want to get involved with Nike. But don't remember, there are different entities. There's Puma, there's Adidas. There are other, outlets. Don't label yourself just Nike because they the most popular. Go to a smaller company and you'll find more success. Probably they might have more feedback for you, to give you advice to know to set the path that you want to take. So don't just rely on Nike or a big company. Someone's establishing in the mall, or just do your footwork. And like I said, but email is a powerful thing, because you can write several letters to different companies and you'll be surprised that many people will answer back and answer the criteria that you're looking for.
Absolutely. Mr. Howard?
I would agree. I like to call it planting seeds. For me, I would say reach out, send out applications, go on IG. You can never reach out to too many people. And like I said, do your background, have your value, your foundation. So, when you're coming to these different agencies, different people, different brands, you're not, asking for a handout, but you have value, and there's somewhere they can implement you in their company, or, connect with you, to work with you as an agent and connect with your players. I think that's the biggest thing. If you have no connections now, or nobody you need to start introducing yourself. You need to start finding these people. They're here. So.
Absolutely awesome. So that was the last student question, but I have a question for you gentlemen. I wanted to talk about your transition off the field or off the court and into business, or quote unquote into civilian life. How was that transition for you guys? Let's start with Mr. McBride.
it was, for me, it was scary. But at the same time, it was something that needed to be done. The way how I got inside of cannabis, it was almost a roll of the dice. My dream was always get inside the development world. I wanted to build and flip apartment complexes. I wasn't able to find the right mentor. However, just knowing, being in the NFL, I wasn't going to be able to do that for a long period of time. So just I start going in real hard on YouTube, trying to figure out just different things that I could be good at. Just being from Camden, New Jersey, I didn't have a lot of mentors. So I guess the answer to the question is difficult, but the thing that helped me was I jumped straight into it. I didn't tiptoe into, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Once I focused in on cannabis, I went all in. And once I went all in, I treated it just like how sports was. I woke up thinking about cannabis. I went to sleep thinking about cannabis. So whatever I wanted to do, I just wanted to make sure that I was 10 toes down for what it is.
Absolutely. Mr. Perkins.
Well, my transition was somewhat little easier. And the only reason I say that is because the NBA at the time, and they still do, in some ways, they offered internships. And that's what I wanted to I should have said to the young lady who was aspiring agent. There are internships that these companies offer. And so the NBA, whatever team you were with, you take advantage of that internship. And I did. So while I was playing, I took 2 weeks in the summer my degree was into communications. So I followed communications throughout the NBA. So wherever I was in that prospective city, I got on the radio, DJ, did whatever I had to do to fulfill that field. But also the NBA gives you various opportunities to explore whatever you wanted to do after your professional career. So while you were playing, they give you insight during the summers, and if I wanted to be a programmer or a music director or communications guy, DJ or whatever, I found that TV entity. I found that newscast, and I did all those type of things to get myself involved. So out of 2 weeks out of the summer, I would always go to a local or the city that I was in or the city where I was from, let's say New York, and I would go to the radio station and act like a DJ on midnight, or know the programming board, or know how to set up a mic, set up something like this to actually make myself by the time I got to the end of my career. So doing that each year for about 8-10 years, as soon as I finished playing, I was on the radio cast of the Pacers at the time. So after a while, they started using you in different ways because they saw that you had some type of background. So those are things that helped me after basketball. And then it just went to different other things because they knew who you were, they knew what was talking about. And one guy that's doing that now, as you can see, I don't know if you all know him, follow basketball, but Vince Carter. He's now at ESPN, and because of his work off the court, gave him a good chance to be a good broadcast analyst.
Absolutely, thank you. Mr. Howard.
I'm still playing, so that's why I hesitated to answer. And learning from players in front of me in all sports, and the biggest thing you hear is just transition from playing into after you're done playing, and how business that way. So always just trying to prepare for that. It's always been in my mind, and which pushed it over for me to start doing business off the court while I was still in sports, was financially and money dictated some of my sports decisions. playing for this team for more money or being in the right situation and, sacrificing money or, these different things. I wanted to alleviate that pressure on myself. And instead of waiting, to do business after, I could prepare now and skip some years that I'd be waiting. And like I said, professionally, there's a lot more free time. So I wanted to use my free time productively and, like I said, learn from my own mistakes, but others, and just watching them, have the money, the finances, the resources that come with, playing professional sports and not take advantage of them, not knowing how to use them until they're worried about not playing anymore. And then it's, let me see what I can do. Let me see who I can connect with, where now I'm, while I'm hot, still, making these connections and trying to, expand on them.
Awesome. Thank you. Torrance, I yield the floor to you.
Awesome. So, Mr. Howard, it was asked, will your agency be only for basketball or will you represent other major sports?
As of right now, it's starting with basketball. There's the end goal for the agency. There's no limitation. I even want to bridge into entertainment as far as, acting. Like I said, for me, it's just the avenues that we can reach. We're open to anybody that's, a valuable agent, valuable talent that we can work with. There's no limit to the agency or any area that we're trying to reach into. We have quality. You could do anything you want.
Thank you for that. I think we're towards the end. So does anyone have any final thoughts they want to pass on before we leave?
I had two thoughts. The first, I got advice from a family friend and just a successful businessman as far as when trying to, find these avenues of things, business or just, success, or where to spend your time. Do something that you would do for free and then take that idea and get paid for it, because that'll be what you're most, interested in. You'll have the passion behind it, and, building on that, once you find one thing, don't limit yourself to that. Like, find the different things you're passionate about and pursue them, with nonstop determination. And then on top of that, find positive ways to affect our community. Majority of us in this chat are minorities, and our communities need that, positive figures, but also with foundation to build on, where you could tell the next person in the community, the next person following the high school student that's trying to go to Southern Law School, or, the other, you can tell them the different ways that, you're learning, but you're also doing yourself.
Awesome. Mr. McBride.
Just being okay accepting failure. A lot of people, when you're taking that leap of faith, you have to understand there's two sides of it. You can be extremely successful at it, or you can fail. And a lot of people, they're afraid to take that step forward because that is a obstacle that you may have to kind of get over. And just understanding that's just part of life. Getting up, falling, getting up, falling, getting back up. That's the only thing that matters, is getting back up and is going towards your goals. Not making that setback who you are, and just having an understanding that it's just an obstacle that you have to go. Just a little feedback. If you fail, just a little feedback for how you need to do things a little bit differently. So just understanding that's just part of life.
Wow, that's very, very profound. And Mr. Perkins.
In the regards of representation, there's a lot of questions about now young ladies and young men having representation. Is that be leery of people coming to you, and I don't know if it has happened or not, but family members want to be your agent, and they want to be the one that they go through for money, I mean, to take care of your money, but they don't know how to invest it. There's a lot of guys that in different sports that I know that have gone broke because, or gone sour because a family member is taking care of their financials. And when that happens, you have all this faith and trust in them because they're your family member, but they may not be competent of handling your situation, your newfound situation. So be leery of that, because that has happened a great deal, too many times. And you want to say no to them, but because of their family and they close to you, you give them the opportunity. And so when you become somebody, famous, and now you have a new wealth for yourself, everybody's now your family member, or they want to be your friends. And sometimes it can go the opposite way, and it's not all good. So be cautious of having people represent you that are not well qualified to do that, and because that happens a great deal to a lot of guys and some women as well.
All right, I'll turn it over to Reggie to close us out.
I was just going to say to everyone, thank you all for attending the SULC, the inaugural SULC Sports and Entertainment Symposium. And I think that this was an excellent panel to close out the symposium. Mr. McBride, Mr. Perkins, Mr. Howard gave some excellent advice. And I hope you all were taking notes and taking in what they said, because every panel not only gave you good advice about career options, but they also gave you good advice about humanity and just being a good person. And so I want to make sure that everyone understands that. And I'm going to go back to one of the first things that Mr. McBride said and Mr. Perkins and Mr. Howard echoed, is that it's a good thing to be humble. And all these panelists have been successful in their chosen and given careers. And one thing that I can say for all of them is that they have been humble. They have given of their time. They have given of themselves to you all during this time frame. And I want you all to acknowledge that. And as you go on and you try to be successful in everything that you do, always remain humble. And so I just want to again thank you all. Thank Mr. McBride, Mr. Perkins, Mr. Howard for everything. And I must say, I could not have done this without Mr. Matthews and Mr. Burnett. You two are absolutely wonderful. And I must always say that SULC creates lawyer leaders, and Reggie has graduated and he's doing excellent. And Mr. Burnett is fantastic. He brings his wealth of knowledge into the school every day, and both of these students have former student and student only grow with what we want to show at SULC. So thank you all, and y'all have a good evening, and stay tuned for next year's Sports and Entertainment Symposium. Thank you.
Thanks again, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Nice meeting you all.